Welcome to Creating a Disruption, the podcast that focuses on ways to disrupt the traditional classroom by using engaging teaching and learning strategies. I am Brian Hall, Associate Professor of English and coordinator of Studio 101 on the Metro campus. Studio 101 is the college's creative learning space. And with me is our co-host, Kara DePaul, Director of Everything, specifically academic professional development. Is that the correct title?
That is the correct title.
Awesome. Today's guest is Chef KY, Assistant Professor of Hospitality Management. He has been with the college since 2007 as adjunct, but he is now a tenured faculty member. And he recently received the Excellence in Teaching Award in honor of Ralph M. Besse, which is presented annually to faculty and adjuncts who show exceptional professional competence and commitment to helping students succeed. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
So on the podcast, we usually focus on ways to disrupt the traditional classroom, meaning ways to shift away from lecture-based classroom teaching and applying many times active learning strategies to help students understand the content. But I would imagine in your classes, getting students in the kitchen and working is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So my first question, actually it's more of a statement, I guess.
Okay.
Having you talk a little bit about how you balance the lecture aspect of it.
Okay.
And then moving into the application part of that.
Okay.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah. So when we think of like lecture, you're going back to exactly what I teach is, I teach all the labs. They're lab classes, so they're very hands-on. So there is a piece where we do have, the environment is a professional kitchen. We're over on Public Square, so we have these are teaching kitchens, but the equipment is it's all professional cookware. But as far as lecture, before the students come to class, we have them they have to do reading, to understand why different recipes will be a certain way, or even for example, I'm teaching an introduction to cooking class. It's the 1031, which is the basic cooking class. And, if we're doing stocks, it's like, it's not just, okay, we're making a stock and then move on. I want my students to understand why we're making stock. And, because again, we're going back to like fundamentals, or foundational skills. So stock is, from stocks, you make your soups and sauces, and you can put them in different things. So, so as far as like lecture, part of it is reading. And then also, when I'm very hands-on, and it's like we were talking about, I'm kind of ping pong ball, I'm a kind of an active person. So when I do lectures, a lot of it is integrated into actually demos, like chef demos. So I've done a lot of, online, even like during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of my lectures at home, like cooking at home and kind of trying to simulate, not that I was in it's obviously a home kitchen, but, the ideas of, of how to, the techniques, those are very transferable to any kind of professional kitchen. But so a lot of times I'll definitely demo for the students how to make stuff, because it is, when you're reading a recipe or you're trying to tell somebody how to do something, it's depending on people's different students have different learning styles. It's, you can tell them something, but it's like they do something else. And it's not a fault of theirs. It's just the way that they learn. So having the like a visual, like a lecture where I'm demoing something helps out a lot. So that's I consider that part of my lecture. And then from there, I have the students make whatever that is. So if we're making stock, they have all the ingredients, they have all the equipment, and almost like, I'll show you how to do it, and then now it's your turn to do it. And then from there, then I can kind of let the students kind of go off, and I see who some students, they just get it. And of course we have different ability levels too. So some students they've cooked at home or they've cooked in industry. So they're a little bit, they get it. Whereas others never even picked up a knife before, which is fine. And they learn at a different pace, and maybe they need some more coaching or constructive criticism.
Right.
No, but I'm not, I definitely, it's not like what, I'm not you know, like I think the whole idea of the yelling chef, you know what I mean? You know that
like Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, Hell's Kitchen. You know what I mean? And that's you know, and actually we, you know, that model of the yelling and screaming chef it's not you know now it's changed. You know what I mean? I think chefs we've gotten smarter. And because when it's yelling and screaming is from frustration, like you know, or fear. You know what I mean? Like, oh, what are you? You know what I mean? But we come to show that you know, like, and you know, now that it's changed, like chefs they learn how to communicate. You know what I mean? And having more management skills. You know what I mean? And training as well. You know, because that's part of it. Is you know, so when I talk about training, like that's you know, it seems like when I do a lot, you know, I've taught now for umpteen years. When I put more time into training and explaining how the recipes, doing the demos, having them do homework, then you know what I mean. That fresh, you know, during class, it's a lot more productive. You know, even for myself, not that I was ever a screamer, but you know, I never get to that point where okay, what's going on? So yeah.
So when you move the students into the kitchen and they're working on it themselves,
Yeah.
do they first do it by them on their own, or do you have them work in groups and collaborate on it, or it depends on?
It depends on the project.
Okay.
So like in the beginning, like the 1031, I really want them to be on their own because they need to learn how to do it themselves. So for example, setting a cutting board, washing their hand, you know what I mean? They're not gonna have a group and say, okay, you're only one of y'all are washing your hands. No, everybody has to wash their hands. It's like basic, you know, and I need to have accountability as well. You know, I've actually taken that approach where I've taught that class where it was in groups and you'll literally have one person doing all the work and two people kind of, you know, spectating, you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's by having, you know, everybody do their, I mean, they'll be at the same table so they can communicate,
Right.
but as far as the actual, like, okay, you're making stock, everybody has to make that same stock. And then when they get into the more advanced classes, then it's becomes more of, okay, so the foundations are there, you know, I know that they've taken a couple more, you know, classes, then we can work on a little bit more complicated recipes, or sometimes we're doing complicated menus. For example, I'm teaching an advanced class right now. It's our Hospitality 2992. It's American regional cuisine. And, you know, and one thing with cooking is you have to, it's this old saying, you have to know a lot. You have to know a lot to learn a little. You know what I mean? You have to just like, I'm not in your world with English, but you have to read how many books to know, right. You know what I mean, to glean, you know, just to find your own voice. But so in American Regional, we cook, you know, there's 12 students in the class, so there's 12 separate recipes being cooked, and we present a buffet, you know what I mean? So in that case, you know, we're working as a team to collaborate, you know, on this buffet, but we're each cooking our own separate dish. So I don't know if that.
No, absolutely. The other thing I always find interesting is sort of even what you just mentioned, the amount of communication that has to be, I won't say perfected, but at least getting students to recognize that when you're doing any type of project like that, you have to be able to clearly communicate what your needs are in order to accomplish whatever the goal is, whatever the dish is.
Right. And as far as and that's like restaurants have a lot of paradoxes, and same with the classroom too. So like going back to the 1031 example, like yes, I'm holding every student accountable to make their own dish, right? So when they get in, but as a team, we're all cleaning together. We have to. You're working in an environment that's dangerous because there's knives, there's hot stuff. So you have to make, you know, like in restaurants, you have to be like super redundant. So if you're coming out of the cooler, you knock on the cooler so you don't, somebody standing in front, they don't get slammed. Or if you have a hot pot and you need to walk around, you know, you're saying hot, behind, corner, you know what I mean?
Right.
So they have to balance that too, like individual development, like, okay, I need to learn what I need to learn because that's what the chef's telling me, or that's what I want to pass this class. But then on the other hand, right. You know what I mean? I'm asking them to also, you have to be a team player as well and learn how to develop those soft skills, you know, because unless you're unless you're working by yourself in a chef of one person, you know, you have to learn that team mentality. You know?
So I think about like restaurants, and my family owns restaurants.
Oh, okay.
In it, but I always work in the front of the house.
Okay.
And so I'm always, you know, sitting there and waiting for the food to come out, right?
Okay.
And so very cognizant of like the time crunch, right?
Okay.
Like, oh, this person's been waiting for, 15 minutes for their hamburger or
Okay.
whatever. So I would imagine too, like in your classes, right? Like the class time is finite. You have,
Okay.
start and end time,
Yep.
but like, can you talk a little bit about like how do you teach time management to your students, right?
Yeah.
And getting recipes going from start to finish and timing things coming out and everything.
Yeah, and we have this saying, it's called sense of urgency, and that's very, very important. Right from day one, even in the advanced in the beginning classes. I just taught it yesterday, so it's all fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
But we're at the midterm mark. It's like the very first couple classes. We're running behind. It's like I'm literally helping. That sense of urgency is so important because in restaurants, you live and die by the clock, man. I mean, people 10 minutes by 15 minutes they start. They start by like 20 minutes, half hour. They're calling Domino's and. No, you wouldn't. I think that was in Hell's Kitchen. They did that. Like somebody was waiting 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's for TV. But so as that sense of urgency of our customers, again in the classrooms in a restaurant you just get yelled at, like move your bucket. You know what I mean? But in a restaurant, and for teaching you have to. You need to, or at least I feel like I need to teach my students why there is that sense of urgency. So customers, and I give them empathy. It's like, have you ever sat in an empty dining room and your food isn't ready in 15 minutes? Like, 20 years. It's something's wrong.
Right.
I mean, you have a little more leeway if it's a full restaurant, then you get it. You know what I mean? But if you have an empty restaurant, your food's taking 20, 30 minutes. Like your satisfaction goes down. So from they understand this customer point of view. And then also I explain also, with sense of urgency is you have to balance that work life. You know what I mean? Like that's so important because, if this restaurant it can suck you in, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And if you dilly dally and you just take forever, you know what I mean? It's like, you're always, there's a meme like, it's like when you're coming home, your wife, your significant others, like when so that's another reason why you need if you can get all your work done and clean and you're done, then you're not staying at the restaurant and you can have some balance for yourself. And then also, not only is a customer point of view for personal sense of urgency, but also at the end of the day, it's money as well. You know what I mean? When you're trying to churn a restaurant, because that means you're more sales, you know what I mean? Or even if, in the dining room, you want to get those tables flipped so you can get more seats. Then also in a restaurant, you want to go as quickly as you can so you can sell as much food as possible to make you're making money. And also when you're the, so that's like that's easy for that's one level to think about sense of urgency. And then I try to give my students a little bit of inspiration, but when you're the chef, you know what I mean? Ultimately it's your responsibility for all the labor costs. You know what I mean? So if you have hourlies, you know what I mean? You have to as a chef, you set the pace. This needs to be done by that time. You know what I mean? So, because if you're employed and you're not setting the pace and you're just taking too much time, then once you get an overtime, it gets really expensive. You just can't afford it. So so that's a chef in me, but as an instructor in me, how I teach that sense of urgency is, on rubrics, I have time management. So if they fall behind, there's no time. And then also, because we still have to build in clean, because we don't have dishwashers, we have cleanup time. So I tell, for example, in my fundamentals class, it's a 2.5 hour class, but we only have 2 hours of cooking. You know what I mean? That last half hour is cleaning. You know what I mean? We can't just leave the kitchen a mess. So they know that by like it goes from 5 to 7:30. So at 7 o'clock, guys, win, lose or draw, we're starting to clean. So if you don't finish your stuff, sorry, you lose points. I'm just going to grade you for what you have. You know what I mean? So, a couple of students, they don't finish, then it sinks in, you know what I mean? And I already set that expectation. By 7, you need to do this, and then if students do fall behind and why they're not doing, because there you go again, sometimes students are just talking, you know what I mean? So that eliminates that, you know what I mean? Like there was no reason why they should have fell behind. And then it also helps me as an instructor. Okay, well, if that person didn't finish, okay, what's the deal? You know what I mean? Is it they need more coaching? do they need to come to class more prepared so they know exactly, they're just rolling in 10 minutes late, you know what I mean? And just trying to figure, so that is it preparation, or is it just that, or if it's some students, they just need more, they're trying to be so perfect and put out a quality product, they just need that much more time. Then I'd be like, okay, then maybe come 10 minutes early, 15 minutes early, set yourself up. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
that'll give you that extra time to do your product. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that kind of answers.
So-
That was a long-winded
It
answer.
does.
But, yeah.
Before we dive in,
Uh-huh.
can you set the stage for us in terms of the actual lab that you're teaching from? So I know a lot of faculty have been down to the HMC
Okay.
Hospitality
Mhm.
Management Center
Yeah.
downtown,
Mhm.
right? But we also have Alleray, which is at the Jerry Sue Thornton
Yes.
Center,
Mhm.
and do you teach from there as well?
At
the
Alleray, I
student-run
do
kitchen?
not. I used to teach, because at Alleray is the restaurant class.
Okay.
So I haven't taught at Alleray. I have taught at Cafe 4250. That was at Eastern Campus. That's when the restaurant was there before. So
Okay.
but,
Is that still
I
that's
think
available?
I think they were open simultaneously at one time, and then
Okay.
with the enrollment, so now it just makes more sense now. So
okay?
You mentioned earlier about the shift in sort of the angry chef.
okay. Mm-hmm.
So has there been a shift in sort of how teaching occurs? It's like from maybe
Okay.
when you were in
Mhm.
school to now.
Okay.
Like, for example, I was in school, I just sat in all my classes. Like
Okay.
there was no real active anything, right? Maybe we'd get in groups, but no one knew what we were supposed to do in the groups anyway,
Okay.
so we just talked about how we didn't read
Mm-hmm.
the assignment. But now, the shift is finding more ways to get students to be actively engaged.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a similar shift that happened from when you were in school and now that you're teaching, you're going, oh, I wish we would have things that I'm doing, I
Yeah.
wish that I experienced it when I was
And it's very interesting because when I went to culinary school, I went to Cordon Bleu in the one in London.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like it was very proper. So it started out in the morning. The chef actually did a demo, so you sat through it, and that was almost like there was no interaction. Like the chef, like that was yes chef. You know what I mean? So and this is London, so it's like half the class is already like hungover or whatever. Doing stuff they shouldn't. Yeah, and I could say that because it's fine. But
Right.
but doing what I mean? It's like 8 o'clock and we're what I mean? So it's like and it's just like that normal and there's no and then from there it was like 2.5, 3 hour lecture, sometimes a 4 hour lecture, and then from there then you moved into the kitchen and then you kind of you made your product that the chef had done, which are a lot of value, because you can see how it's done. But as far as like interaction, there was not very much. But I remember there was one teacher, and that's when we're talking about disruption. His name was Chef Bruno, and he was really, really good at what he did. Like you just look at the skill level of the chef. Some of the chefs, they were just like, they were good, but not. I mean, he was a total. I mean, he would, these the Cordon Bleu chefs are here, and then you'd have Bruno was like really.
Okay.
So he had a lot of confidence, and he knew so much. And as far as how he ran his classes, he had that confidence to veer off script sometimes. Even during his demos, they were super engaging, asking people what we thought. You know what I mean? Like rather than okay, I'm gonna yes, chef, everybody be silent. I'm gonna show you how to do it. End of story. Like he was really, really engaging. He actually brought almost brought like that. I mean, he was a professional. I mean, he was a teacher, but he had a lot of experience. He had his own bakery. He was a chef, so the way he talked and the way he ran his class was almost like as if he was a chef. You know what I mean? Like it was like that blurred that line between teacher and instructor. You know what I mean? So not only for his lectures, but also in the labs, and he was really engaged. Work with students, see what your ability level was. You know what I mean? So he was good, and that's like I learned so much more with him. You know what I mean? Than some of not that it was a really good program, but when you talk about retention, like when you talk about disrupting, I think it really helps to students will learn a little bit more. Like they'll get engaged rather than just tuning out and trying to just go through the motions.
Right.
Yeah. So
So how did you come to, you were at Cordon Bleu, and how
Uh-huh.
did you come into teaching eventually?
how did I come into teaching? So I almost got a divorce. So no, it was. I mean, it was actually. So I went to Cordon Bleu, and then I came. So I was all right now in hospitality. I mean, actually, I was very super focused on like fine dining, you know.
Mhm.
So that's why I wanted to go to Europe and work in that Michelin, you know,
Sure.
really high end food. And came back to Cleveland. I worked in a lot of the different restaurants around here, and then I was a chef of Lock Keepers, and then I was out in Valley View, and then I was lucky to meet Chef Dante Bacuzzi. So I was his kind of took a step back, but it was his chef de cuisine, and by that time, you know, I had reached that level. I had I don't know if you know this, but I have triplets. So there were three at the
Oh.
time. So I literally was not home the first 2 years. And my wife was just like,
Yeah.
"No, you're never home anyways." So I kind of had to make a change, you know, because I just balanced there's just no way to to do both. There's just not enough time in the day. So so I left. I went back to a hotel. I kind of took a year off, just to kind of figure stuff out. And then actually Dante was like, "Hey, because I was really good with training staff and stuff. He's like, "Oh, why don't you think about teaching?" And it was never on my radar, you know. And then I called Chef Tom out of the blue one day. I was like, "What about teaching?" And, I never really, and from there I started out as adjunct, taught one class, and I was actually I was lucky. I was able to get a chef. I was a chef at Lucky's Cafe down in Tremont. So that was a morning and afternoon brunch. So I was able to take one or two classes in the evening until I started getting. And then once I started teaching, I started falling in love with teaching. That was really kind of a beautiful thing. So. Yeah.
So for where you're at now
Uh-huh.
and when you began teaching,
Yeah.
like what are some of the changes that you made, like as an instructor? Like if you're reflecting on it and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I can't believe I used to do this or I was this way.
Mm-hmm.
Or have you always felt sort of the rhythm you've been in has been working for
Like,
you?
no, when I first started, I mean, I was literally, again, that whole, I was thinking, I could cook, but as far as like teaching, I had a really, like those first few years was a learning curve, you know what I mean? So in the beginning, I just didn't want to do anything wrong, you know what I mean? Because there's no, I don't know if you, when you start trying to see, but there's no handbook saying this is what you should do.
Yeah.
It's literally, here's the, you know what I mean? You're the expert, teach, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
So like you just kind of get thrown in the deep end, but you also, you don't want to, so I was really hesitant to make this, trying to be, as far as like teamwork and group, I try to stick with the recipes and, and I just, first few years, I mean, not that I didn't care about my student. I mean, I think that I talked to my students who in their first two and they say they learn a lot, but at the time I really wasn't thinking about it. I'm just like trying to fight to survive. Like I need to make sure I have all my, my stuff together. And after a few years, I got I'm down with the syllabus. I know how the class work, you know what I mean? The class schedule and figuring all that out. And then as I got more confidence, then I can almost, and I try to be like that Chef Bruno, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I tell I guess I'm a teacher, but I'm still a chef, you know what I mean? I want to bring in that excitement and, I know I can do this because it's in the union handbook, but I still moonlight in restaurants, you know what I mean? Just to, not full time, but just like I do like some during the summer when I have time, just to still get back in, because I really love to cook, you know what I mean? That actually brings me a source of joy, you know what I mean? As far as, that's why I love cooking in the first place, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy because I tell my student, you really have to enjoy the perfect, or, it could be like my wife does not cook at all. And she's like, I don't know how you do what you do. Like that would be 8 to 12 hours of just HE double hockey stick. You know what I mean? Like why would anybody want to be in a hot kitchen, being yelled at, have a ticket machine? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Chaos.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Did you put in your order? You know what I mean? But it's like, once you have that passion for you, or I don't know, or interest, or it becomes your, I mean, I was borderline, I've eased off now, but it almost became obsessive. Like I couldn't turn it off.
Right.
It's like, but I can't remember what I was talking about.
I'll just say that
Yeah.
when I first started teaching,
Oh yeah, the teaching. Okay,
yeah,
there you go.
the whole idea
Yeah.
of perfection, right?
Yeah.
Because when I started, I didn't take a pedagogy class in
Okay.
college, and I
Okay.
just started adjunct. And the perfection thing, I would actually practice my lectures
Okay.
at home
Uh-huh.
before going in. And then I was arrogant enough to think that people would laugh at me. So as I practiced, I paused for laughter at the place.
You start laughing.
Yeah, like a laugh.
But then I would get into class.
Okay.
No one thought I was funny. So like I planned for 50 minutes.
Okay.
And then like 25 minutes in, I'm done. And I'm like, if you all just laughed, we would have made it. But I think that says a lot about getting more confident as you go, right? Because then you're able just to step into a class and you know what you're doing,
Mhm.
and you know.
And
like
actually,
Bruno,
actually, now that I remember my train of thought, it's actually like, I can't remember when we talked about when we talk about bandwidth. Like your brain only has so much it can, So as you get more experience, you have more bandwidth, and I use that extra bandwidth for my students to go off. Vera. I mean, actually, in my notes we were talking about disruption. Like, some of the stuff that I do in my class, I like I'm able to physically disrupt. Like we're going to offsite, but. A lot of I was driving to work, because I have a 40-minute drive, so I'm thinking all these thoughts are going in my head. But a real simple disruption that I do in my class, which the students love and they appreciate, is the whole idea of special requests. You know what I mean? Like when you go to a restaurant, you have to be able to do vegetarian, keto. One big thing is gluten-free. You know what I mean? Like you have all these different diets. You know what I mean? So, when when we're going into lab and our students, they prepare, right? Then I'll disrupt them being like, okay, this is fine, but how do we make this gluten free? And then and then they freeze.
Right.
I'm like, I go, that's perfectly natural, because in a lot of restaurants, there's no training. Like somebody gluten free comes in, just give them salad or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or some, you know what I mean? And it's just like, but if by disrupting them and having them see outside the box a little bit and going off those they can, so for example, for doing like a pasta, okay, maybe we can think of maybe a different gluten-free type of variety. Or if we're doing frying, we have to think about, the fryer grease, it kind of being cross-contamination. So a lot of times, I disrupt them by throwing them curveballs, and that's part of the industry, is getting those, you have to be able to absorb those curveballs, or else.
Well, and preparing them to take the curveball, right, and be able to rearrange and find the gluten-free recipe, but also how you respond back. So there was a time when I was working in the front of the house that they called me special order Kara, because I always put in special orders that this person is gluten-free, or they want sauce on the side, or whatever it may be. But my job was to please the customer, and then I would come back to the kitchen, and they would be like, no, we're not doing special requests, right? And so teaching them like that communication skill too, of how to respond under pressure, find an alternative, and then communicate that back out. So I love that you're training your students like that.
And as a chef, I mean, you have to put those systems in place for your staff. So if the line cook, if they're only trained to do A, B, you know what I mean? They go in that A, B, C, D, you know what I mean? You have to show them other ways. So if there is that gluten-free or there's sauce on the side, if those systems are in place, then you wouldn't get that flat, you know what I mean? So it's, again, and I tell my student, that's pure economics, right? It's not just, if somebody calls and say, do you have gluten-free alternatives? And I can say this because I actually have two of my kids are gluten-free, you know what I mean? Like you're not just catering for that one person, you're trying to get the whole family to come, you know what I mean? People, they'll eat by themselves, but you know what I mean? Typically it's you can have when we call restaurants, or we want to make sure there's gluten-free out. If they don't, then, you just lost six people, and that's not one person.
Right.
So you have to be able to, and then customer service it's hospitality. You know what I mean? You can't be like, sorry, you're out of luck. You want sauce on the side? Well, go to the next restaurant next door.
Well, if you ever want a picture of curveballs, you can just invite me in, because I have so many food allergies.
Okay.
That most of the time I just don't go out.
Yeah.
I just feel so bad. Right. So especially for me, the main one is peanut.
Okay.
And then you go in and like, well, we can't promise you that there's not cross-contamination. And then I'm like, all right, well, see you later. Right. And then whole family leaves.
Yeah, not allergies. That's the big one. There's I give them horror stories of Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it can be challenging.
Yeah.
So one of the things, because you brought an image.
Oh, yeah.
with you, and so I'm going to share that real quick. So
Okay.
this is at the Catholic Center.
Yep.
And if you could just talk a little bit about sort of what.
Oh yeah. So this is the Westside Catholic Center. It's over across from the from St. Ignatius, kind of like Westside Market on the side. I don't know what's that bridge.
The Lorraine
The
Carney.
Lorraine. Thank you. So it's really close to the to campus or to the HMC. This was actually I had we all had to make that adjustment during COVID. I mean, it was like literally we social distancing and we really couldn't serve any customers. So it was like how are we able to get it kind of came from out of desperation, so I started thinking, okay, outside the box, what can we do? You know what I mean? So we can, because the students, they need that opportunity to get that, and not even getting the experience, but also in a way, feeling the pressure of feeding somebody. Like, I mean, like if, in a class, and I tell my intro students this too, like, if you, let's say you're making, I don't know, grilled cheese or something, you burn it, what's the worst that's going to happen? Okay, you get whatever grade, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's make them as, but if you're actually serving like clients, you know what I mean? It's not okay. You can't serve, there's that, it's that empathy, you know what I mean? Like your actions actually have some kind of, it's not just, a grade, you know what I mean? So it's almost stepping out of that classroom scenario,
Sure.
because I get it. Sometimes students are like, well, I'm paying for this, you know what I mean? Like, where's my assessment? That's, but it's not, and part of our program is having that gray area, where we need to serve the public so you can have that experience. So then when you do walk into a kitchen and you are drawing a salary or, you know what I mean, then you're, it's not that big of a leap, you know what I mean? So it's like kind of training, but yeah, so at the Catholic Center, this is a really good event because, it started, we serve, 120, originally it was, during the middle of the pandemic, they just did because it's they did to-goes, so it's 120 to-go lunches, hot lunches, and the clients would stand outside and they would serve. But I still go there, take my students down there because it's such a great experience, and now they have a dine-in experience, so they actually have the opportunity to serve the clients and actually see their faces,
So do they prepare the food at the HMC?
Yeah, no. So what's cool about this is, and my students, when I kind of tell them what we're doing, they're just like, they're scared. They're terrified. I mean, some of them who are in industry, they're fine, but I'm literally, okay, we're going to go there. We don't know what we're going to be making because at the Catholic Center, it's all donation, right? So they get food, they order food from the food bank and stuff, but it's not like a restaurant. So we don't know what we're going to be making, right? When we walk in, we have to, it's almost like Iron Chef, late cuisine. We got to figure, they usually provide a protein, vegetable, and some kind of dessert. So we have to, on the fly, we're figuring out, okay, what menu we're going to be making. And then we arrive at 9 and lunch goes out at noon. So we have 3 hours for recipe development, menu development, and we have to produce as well. So they learn, and this is the banquet class. So they, this is one of the capstone classes. So it's not just intro students who go to it. So they do have, they know how to set up a cutting board. They know how to work, they have an understanding of serve safe, so they're not going to kill anybody or make somebody sick. You know what I mean? So, and then from there, then they have to actually serve the, and because when we were doing hot to goes, you know what I mean? There had to be that sense of urgency because that window of time, we couldn't just take 3 hours to do because the food's because there's no heat lamps are there. You know what I mean? Literally, we're serving 120 meals, and now with now they're doing dine-in. The food still needs to be hot, and then now you have like 50 people staring at you. So we better be ready. So they learn a lot on a lot of different levels. Like they're actually putting those foundational skills that we teach them, like little bits and pieces, and like bringing it together. So menu development. This is the ingredients. What can we do with it? How to produce in bulk quantities, because that's one of the objectives of the banquet classes. When you're cooking a banquet, you're not cooking 2 people, you're cooking 100, 200, right? So, and then also banquet service, customer service, you know what I mean? We have clients and then the clients are, you know, it's really humbling, you know, for the student, like it's a good experience for them to learn, you know, and then that's one of the magic things that I teach them with hospitality is, you know, where you're able to not only, you know, it's not only a career, but, you know, you're able to help people and really, you know, you're serving people food. I mean, that's the coolest thing you can do. It's the nicest thing you can do for somebody is to cook for somebody, you know, so they learn, you know, customer service as well. And it's huge. And why I think it you know, ties into talk about disruption is because now they're going into a place that you're talking about a brand new kitchen. We're going in blind, people. You know what I mean? Like we don't and I know the kitchen is actually it's a nice kitchen. You know, there's a stove and there's an oven, so it's working. You know, so it's not completely like we're in a backyard or something. You know what I mean? It's so, but there you go again. Like you know, when you're in your own workshop or something, you have this certain comfort level because you know where everything is, and then now you're going into a space that's completely off-site, so they have to learn, you know. And but through it all, I mean, the students they always I do reflections, and you know, it's a great experience for them.
So as the instructor, like, were you nervous or apprehensive to do this as the instructor?
I was the first couple of times I was, again, as a teacher, like I have my responsibility is is for safety. So that was my first thing, and they actually have and they had security, so that was fine. And then as far as the food piece, I mean, I think if it was my first year teaching, I think feel very insecure, you know. But by the time that I take these students and at least I know that I'm not teaching, they're not, they've gone through, they're almost ready to graduate. So I know that they know how to cook safe. So that I'm not teaching that piece, you know what I mean? So I know they're going to keep themselves safe, keep the customers safe. So, but it did take me out of my comfort zone a little bit because it was offsite. Because you have these, I don't know, there's what is it? The famous speech with Donald Rumsfeld. You know what I'm talking about? There's things you know, things you don't know, and there's things you don't know that you don't know. He's talking about right. So the things you don't know that you don't know. That's always like my biggest fear. It's like, right, what don't I know that I don't know? But we've been doing it now for a couple of years, so it's good experience for them. So.
I think about how disruptive it is even to go into a different classroom, right? Or to learn how to turn on some of the, you know, the computers and the and the equipment here. And I think about like Studio 101, like if I was coming in here for the first time, like there's as faculty, like it takes a minute to adjust to your own surroundings, right? And so to be able to take that take it into the community and have your students follow you in suit is really remarkable.
Yeah. And it's so weird because actually if we can move on to the next one, I'll show you one because so Catholic Center I'm kind of dialed in. It's almost like so it's new for the students, not new for me. But one of the other we did during COVID we did soup delivery at the Lutheran Hospital again, so students could learn, you know, they could still feed customers but not have that, you know, and we could still follow social distancing. So students made we were in soup. So we just go to the next slide there. Oh, that was a fish fry. I was trying to look for. Oh yeah, the Chinese New Year. So this one was a really difficult one. As an instructor, I was not really scared, but again, and this was an offsite banquet. It was at the Union Club, so we were at a different, you know, kitchen entirely. So I'm still trying to figure it out and teach at the same time, and it was, and you know, I try to turn on the chef, you know, the serious face, like I know what I'm doing, but I'm just like. But actually that was a really good you know, it was actually the students were very who participated, they actually learned a lot. There was the Union Club at the time, there was 2 master chefs there, certified master chefs, Chef Lawrence McFadden and Chef Arnaud. So that's why I wanted to bring my students to that environment to see what does a master chef's kitchen look like, you know, and again, talk about disruption. Like, I think we were talking earlier about, you know, some students, you know, you have that are like, I know it all already, you know what I mean? So, you know, and or you're feeling like, you, even for myself, I've been teaching, and I'm the first one to say I don't know it all. I'm a lifelong student. But you go into an environment where, you have two master chefs, you know what I mean? Having gone there, you know what I mean? I realized, like if I came in with, like I know everything, you know what I mean? It's like I know nothing, it's like they've spent their whole lives to get to that point, how they run their kitchen. I mean, from top to bottom, how it's managed, how the different foods are used, just a whole nother level. So, and again, having that disruption, it's good because, and then also, when we talk about disruption is not only is it for, when my students, I'm teaching them things, but sometimes it gets muted, I can tell, like, it becomes like Charlie Brown, you know what I mean? So it's like, I really enjoy, I make the effort to reach out to industry chefs to come and, to help, either one as a guest speaker, or actually we just finished testing. I had final the students had a practical exam, and I had instead of myself doing the grading, I actually had industry chefs come to give the grading and critiquing. So that was, and then again, the students were like totally nervous and they got like scared, but I'm told, it's like we've been practicing, and and I think for them the disruption is, I have my expectation, now you have somebody who's like a third party, judging you on your food and giving you feedback. So, but yeah, the students got a lot of good, that learning. I can see that they stepped up their game, because it's not just, cooking for you, for KY and then whatever, but now it's like, oh, I'm cooking for, Chef April Thompson, or I'm cooking for, Chef Eric Rogers. These are industry people, you know what I mean? So like, and then of course the chefs who come in, they're really gracious because, they're not teachers, and I tell them, it's like, you guys are chef, do what you do. You know what I mean? So it helps prepare the students as well. Like, what I'm talking about, it's not just I'm some ivory tower, like spewing, my wisdom. It's like, this is practical stuff that, and when the chefs say the same thing, then I can see how it resonates, and like, okay, he does know what he's talking about, or he's leading me down the right path.
So you talked about being a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about? Are there things that you want to implement in like next semester or next year? Like teaching strategies?
Yeah. I mean, right now, I think where I think as far as just the way that the teaching is going, I think a lot of the online right now, it seems like is where it's going. So, and that's we've had faculty discussions about it. It's like, how do you, you know what I mean? Like cooking, like at home, it's such a, and being I get it. It's a huge, you have to physically do it and stuff, but I think there's that gray area, so like, I think like, because I did have a fully on, like during the pandemic, I had a fully online class because we had no kitchen. So students were actually cooking at home and but I think hybrid model, I think it's going to work. So we actually have cameras and trying to do more of the demos, and at least, and some of these classes that we have, like right now I'm teaching the 1031 hybrid. So it's normally a 4.5-hour class. So it's now I'm able to put all my lectures and my videos. So they do that at home, and then they come in for 2 hours. So it's shortened that time. And so I see myself, as far as teacher guy, and trying to get more of that online is we have a 7.5-hour class. And if I can do 2 hours of lecture, like show the demo, you know what I mean? Then they can, and I think that's something that that I'd like to work on.
Yeah, so you're essentially doing a flipped classroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Having lecture first and have them come in prepared and
Yeah.
doing the lab.
Yeah. So that's my next project.
Okay.
As far as teacher guy. For cooking, I'm never there. I'm always trying different things, trying new recipes. There's always something. Something new.
You're not at Bruno
What?
yet?
No, not at all. I mean, I started cooking late. I originally have my degree in, I have a bachelor's in chemistry. So this is so I didn't realize this was not for me. I was like, I already finished my senior year. I was like, okay, I'm not smart enough to get a master's or a doctorate in chemistry, so I'm gonna go cook. So I started like
A different type of chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of those, they cut from a different cloth. They start like at 16, 15, so they already have so many years. So I don't know, I'll never be Bruno level. I'll try. Maybe I'll get halfway.
I think that's something for all of us to aspire to be at Bruno level.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
We
no,
really
absolutely.
appreciate it. Congratulations again
Oh, thank you.
winning the Bessie. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of the semester and academic year.
Thank you. You
so
too.
much.
Thank you.